And that question is, what am I supposed to be learning right now? I want you to sit in that space of, okay, like close your eyes. What am I supposed to be learning right now? Am I learning that things inside of myself need to change? Which, if you are having a relationship issue, I'm just letting you know that it's not just that person. You have to go in reflective. Same with business, right? Welcome back to Say More Words. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Tamika Taylor, and it has been a minute, y'all, since it's just been the two of us. So I'm super excited to kind of spend some time solo, one-on-one with you. I'm so very grateful for the guests and the people in my life that I get to bring to your space because one, they're in my space and they help take care of me and change me and love me, and there's just wisdom to learn from so many people. So I'm super excited to share my people with you, and I'm just also really super excited to kind of have a one-on-one moment with you again. Before I get started, the song of the day is called Snap by Rosa Lynn, and partially because it's this song, one, I love it because it's like coffee housey, bluesy. We'll talk about bluey anyways. Coffee house bluesy. But there's a specific line in the song, and it's how it starts. And that's why I picked the song. And she says, it's 4 a.m. and I can't turn my mind off. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. April, when I look back at my notes, we're talking about April today and kind of like this weird energy time that we're in. You all know that I believe in energy and the translation of energy between people, and there's just, as a collective, we kind of go through things and we ebb and flow. And we're kind of experiencing now, as I'm recording this, it's April of 2024, and there's just a weird energy. Now we can go woo-wee and be like, oh, well, Mercury's in retrograde. We just got out of eclipse season. All these different things are happening. But April has always, if I look back at my notes, it has notoriously been a difficult month in business, in life, and all of that. And so today, I'm going to ask you a question, and the whole purpose of this question is to get you out of emotion and get you into logic. So taking you from emotional brain to logic brain. And that question is, what am I supposed to be learning right now? I want you to sit in that space of, okay, like close your eyes. What am I supposed to be learning right now? It is a really fundamental question that helps your brain go into a logical sense instead of an emotional sense. So it takes you out of victimhood and takes you into logic of, okay, this is what's happening. This is what I'm observing. This is what is currently present in my life. And when you ask, like, what am I supposed to be learning right now? It allows your brain to kind of be in the space of, okay, we're going to look at the situation as is. We're going to look at everything that's going on, and we're going to see if, one, we can find the lesson, and if not, can we be reflective enough to find the people who will help us find the lesson? So, what am I supposed to be learning right now? Whether you are going through random weird relationship issues, if you are going through random weird business things, you're noticing a pattern that is very much unlike you. So maybe you're not closing deals, or you're experiencing like basically a lull. I have a lot of people coming to me right now who are like, it's just like everything's bad, everything's exploding, everything's this, that, da da da. And I'm going to tell you, like, even in my own life, this cycle is happening. There's a lot of very heavy, difficult, hard things that I too am also working through because I'm human. And so I have to sit into the space of like, okay, what am I supposed to be learning right now? Am I supposed to be learning that things inside of relationships need to change? Am I learning that things inside of myself need to change? Which, if you are having a relationship issue, I'm just letting you know that it's not just that person. Okay, so that you have to go in reflective. Same with business, right? If my coach Lacey Book, who was on the podcast before, always says like business problems or personal problems are business problems in disguise, and vice versa. Business problems are personal problems in disguise. But a lot of people sit in this victim of like, oh, all of this stuff is happening and da da da. Like, what am I supposed to do? Where do I go? Why is this happening? Oh, it's so hard. All of these things. And you are allowed to feel emotions. Okay, you are allowed to experience the world through an emotional lens. But if you stay there, you don't get anything done. You don't work through it. You don't become logical in the steps. You also, inside of an emotional brain, you don't really sit in the space of solution. A lot of people sit in emotion to feel, but then refuse to look for solutions. So, what am I supposed to be learning right now gets you into a logical space so that you can start finding solutions. I often find people too in April. Something about April and October, there's this overexertion that happens. And so everybody wants to be out. They're doing something. And this, like myself included, there's so many things that had to get done, so many events, so many places to be. All of this was happening in the month of April. And so we have to see, the only way to stop patterns is well, unhealthy patterns specifically. If you have a healthy pattern, you want to keep it. But the only way to stop unhealthy patterns is to acknowledge it, reflect on it, figure out what this negative pattern is doing for you. And then that's when you can learn to change the action. So when I'm looking back at my notes, I'm like, oh man, April has notoriously been rough, right? Like it's been rough in relationships. It's been rough in friendships. It's been rough in business. It's just been like it's just constantly that. It's one of those months where I'm just constantly going, okay, so what am I supposed to learn from this? Because now in this space I am so uncomfortable that now I'm willing to do something about it. You see, most people will sit in their cycles and they'll sit in their patterns and they'll go 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 because it hasn't made them uncomfortable yet. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, oh yeah, that thing makes me uncomfortable, then you can go into the space, okay, what is this pattern supposed to, what is this discomfort supposed to be teaching me? What am I supposed to be learning so that this doesn't happen again in the future? If you are one of those people who are like, I notoriously have this kind of bad month, okay, what are you supposed to learn? What happens in that month? Now, if we look at April, April is the first month of Q2. It happens right after the hustle mindset of new year, new me. I need to change these habits. I'm going to do these things. Well, sometimes people do change things in the beginning of the year and it doesn't work. Or they add too many things and their time gets all screwed up, and that doesn't really work. Or they get into a space where they're looking at the end of Q1 and they're not where they want to be, so they start to self-sabotage. They give themselves shame, blame, guilt, and resentment that is all sparked around the fact that they haven't hit certain goals. What is happening? Why is this so hard? What is this pain supposed to be teaching us? Very similar to like when you get a pain in your foot because you rolled it, right? It's teaching you that you have an injury inside of your body. Your emotional exhaustion and your physical exhaustion and all of the like patterns and things, everything crumbling is a sign. It is a symptom that you need to learn something and something needs to change. Now, hear me and hear me very clearly. Just because you have to learn something, that does not make you wrong. It does not make you not important. It doesn't mean that you've really screwed up. It just means that you are here to learn. Okay? You're here to learn something. The best part is that when you figure that out, you can typically find a path. So what I highly suggest, what am I supposed to learn? And when you figure out like, oh, there's something I need to learn and you don't have the ability to accommodate that for yourself, or you don't know how to learn, or you're unable to be accountable to yourself for that space, that's when we start seeking out guidance. We start seeking out education. We start seeking out people. We start seeking out people like me who keep you accountable. You've got to move forward, because the only way to change a pattern, to change a cycle, or to break a cycle is to do the work to break it. That's where most people stop, though. Most people stop once they figure out that there's a problem or they figure out there's a pattern. They stop and then they go right back into the pattern. They go right back into the cycle. Why? Because it's very uncomfortable to break a pattern, and it's very uncomfortable to break a cycle, because oftentimes you have to acknowledge some hurt or you have to acknowledge ways in which you maybe have not been supporting yourself. You have to acknowledge some really hard things when you're going through cycle breaking. And most people don't want to do that because it's so uncomfortable, or they fear what the outcome is. So I want to be here today to let you know that if you don't work through whatever this is, like when you started listening to this podcast, you heard in your head an issue, a glaring issue that's keeping you up at 4 a.m. because you can't turn your mind off. If you cannot turn your mind off at 4 a.m., whatever that is coming up for you, now is the time to acknowledge it, accept it, greet it like an old friend, little hot Harry Potter reference to death. Greet it like an old friend, and then start to look for solutions. You need to be in the space of, okay, where do I go next without shame, blame, guilt, resentment for you or people involved? Because sometimes there's others involved, and you have to have that conversation of, okay, if I am going to come in a neutral space for myself, I have to be able to come in a neutral space for others so that we can solve whatever is happening. But I'm going to tell you, okay, that, like I said before, if you don't solve the problem, kind of like, a pick your own end to the Goosebumps, our old Goosebumps books, you could pick the ending, and sometimes you pick the ending and it sucked and you went right back to the beginning. Your cycles are very much like that. You can greet the pain and then do nothing about it. But I'm telling you that when you work through the pain of the glaring issue, whatever the issue is, when you work through it, the outcome on the other side is better for you. And you have the option and the opportunity to stop it from happening again. So if you always have a bad April, I realize like my Aprils are notoriously hard by going through my journals. So now I am aware my Aprils are notoriously hard. So now I am looking for a solution, and the partners that are going to help me blast through this issue so it does not happen again. So it's not like, oh, well, every April is hard. There are cyclical journeys inside of money, but they don't always have to exist for you. You don't have to hold on to that narrative. And a lot of people don't realize that. They just hold on to the narrative of like, well, this is what it is. I've just always had a bad April, or, oh, Mercury's in retrograde, so it's going to be terrible. Like, that's a narrative that you're going off of. But also, if you are staying in a cyclical pattern and it is coming up that you can fix it and you choose not to fix it, well, that's on you, boo-boo. This is going to keep happening. But the only way out is through. The only way out is through. And the easiest way to go through is to ask the very simple question, what am I supposed to be learning from this? I often ask out loud as a form of prayer or a question to the universe, like, what am I supposed to be learning from this? Because what's really cool is that when you ask your brain a question, it starts to seek the answers. Also, Zuckerberg might actually show you. Who knows? Because of, advertising and things like that. But what am I supposed to be learning from this? It's logical. It removes shame, blame, guilt, and resentment. And it allows you the space to kind of be like, okay, now I'm moving forward. Even if you're moving forward, and I want to tell y'all this too. Sometimes a half a step is all you can do in a day, but a half a step is better than nothing. I've heard people say too, well, I took 3 steps forward and went 5 steps back. A lot of times people think like the diversions or the distractions or something that comes up that they say it's 5 steps back. And I want you to think, okay, I took 3 steps forward. I was presented with 5 opportunities to make some changes. So really I'm 8 steps ahead. Because people forget that anything big that comes up is a place for opportunity for growth, change, and learn. So it's also about changing the way that you think about the situation and how these opportunities are presented to you. If you can believe that failure happens for you, not against you, and you can learn through it and learn from it. It makes going through the hard times a little bit easier. Like I told you before, I've had a very interesting April. Lots of work, lots of staying up until midnight working on my computer, which I'm not really used to. It's not something that's in my MO for the work that I do, but the season of growth that I'm in is requiring it. And a lot of my time is not my own, and there's a lot of moving parts inside of my life. And now I'm starting to realize that there's patterns that I get into, and April is a pattern. And so now that I'm aware, I can work through it. I can seek guidance. In fact, I did this morning. I sought out specific people who could provide guidance to me as I worked through the question of what I'm supposed to be learning right now. And the season of life that I'm in and the part that I'm learning through is kind of difficult because it very, very much focuses on myself and some beliefs around myself that are my own, but also come from other people. And it's a very interesting dynamic. Now I can see that and I can acknowledge it and I can journal it out because I've been doing this work for a really long time. It might be harder for you at first to ask, what am I supposed to be learning from this? All I want you to do is ask it out loud and just be hyper observant of what you see around you. Okay, what you see, what's coming up, what the people that start showing up in your life, the questions that start getting asked to you, the experiences you get to have. Just be a learner and an observer of life, and I promise you the answers will show up. And if you're in this space where you're like, I don't think it can, I don't think I'm capable of finding it, I don't think that this is a thing for me, then feel free to reach out. My contact information is in the show notes, because that's one of the things that I do very well at in my level or my methodology of coaching and consulting is asking really, really good questions, asking you really, really hard questions that you wouldn't typically ask yourself to get you to think differently, to get you to think bigger, to get you to see situations a little bit differently. It's not a rose-colored glasses situation. It's just really opening your eyes to 2020 vision of what is happening around you. Because we go deep down internal and we like to pretend that there's this film on this world and that we can manipulate it and we can self-care it away, but unfortunately we can't self-care a lot of things away. And so what am I supposed to be learning from this? What am I supposed to be learning right now? What was this opportunity brought to me to teach me? Ask yourself those questions and see how it empowers you to change and think a little bit differently about whatever hot mess is happening. And it may not be April of 2024 for you, but you might be going through a hot mess of a time, and just know you will get through this. Just keep walking through. Don't stop. Don't go back into the terrible roller coaster cycle that you've been in. Go through so that you don't have to get on this ride again. Okay? I'm so very proud of you. If you are going through a hard time and you have questions, comments, concerns, you need somebody to be accountable to, my contact information is in the show notes, and I would be happy to have a conversation with you. Okay? I believe in you. And in case no one's told you today, I am so very, very proud of you. Keep going. You are an awesome human, and I'll see you next time.